Sometimes late at night, when the world outside my window is quiet enough to hear the soft hum of the fridge and the distant whisper of a car on the road, I like to turn off all the lights and just sit there in the dark, letting my eyes adjust to the silence. It feels like the room gets bigger when the lights go out, like the walls move a little farther away, and the air gets cooler and softer on my skin. And in that darkness, I imagine lifting the ceiling away, peeling it back. And suddenly my little room is open to the whole sky, to all the stars, to every galaxy drifting out there in the cold. I imagine looking up and seeing not just a few scattered stars, but the whole Milky Way, thick and white and smoky, like someone spilled milk across a black table, glowing gently. And somewhere in that soft glow, I imagine a strange thought falling into my mind, like a leaf drifting down into a pond. What if some of those galaxies are not just galaxies? What if they are alien signatures, entire civilizations written in light? I remember one night as a kid, lying on the floor with my back pressed against cool tiles, listening to the ticking of an old clock in the next room. I had a small, colorful book about space, with glossy pages that smelled faintly like ink and dust, and something vaguely sweet, like old paper that had soaked up years of quiet. At the back of that book, there was a picture of a city at night, taken from space, all lights and lines and glowing roads. Right next to it, there was a picture of a galaxy, a big spiral with a bright heart, and thousands of tiny dots curling out like a frozen firework. I remember staring at the two pictures, flipping back and forth, city, galaxy, until the shape started to blend in my mind. I thought, in my child brain way, what if a galaxy is just a city, but too big and too far away for us to see the details? Now, years later, I sit in the dark again, no longer a child, but that old thought still knocks gently on the door of my mind. Only now it has a new shape. Because we have this idea, this strange and beautiful idea, that maybe the brightest signatures in the universe aren't just stars exploding or gas clouds glowing, but could be the quiet fingerprints of beings who learned how to use their galaxy as a power source. There's a word that people like to use for that: Dyson. A Dyson sphere, a Dyson swarm, a Dyson civilization. It sounds almost like a myth, like something from a story about gods building shells around stars. But it's really a simple idea. If a civilization gets very advanced and it wants a lot of energy, the biggest power source around is the star itself. So in theory, they might build huge structures around their star to catch the light, like an enormous solar panel, or many panels drifting like bees around a glowing hive. Now, when we think about that on a single star level, it's already wild. Imagine a star like our sun, wrapped in a swarm of countless machines, each one drinking in light. The star would still shine, but not the way it does now. A lot of the light would be captured, turned into something else, maybe used, maybe wasted as heat. From far away, that star might look dimmer in visible light, but brighter in a different kind of glow, in infrared, the kind of light we feel more than see, like warmth from a fire on your face when you close your eyes. That's the basic idea of a Dyson sphere, or swarm. You take a star, you wrap it in collectors, and from a distance, you get a strange signature, less normal starlight, more waste heat. Now stretch that idea across a whole galaxy. Not just one star, but billions of them. Imagine a civilization, or many civilizations, that have had time, millions, maybe hundreds of millions of years, to spread, to grow, to build, to wrap star after star with their machines. If they did that on a truly huge scale, then their galaxy itself might begin to look different. It might not glow like a normal galaxy. It might have a strange color, a weird pattern of light, a kind of smoothness or uniformity that doesn't look natural. Maybe it would be dark in places where we expect brightness, or warm in ranges of light where the universe is usually quiet. In a sense, the whole galaxy could become an alien signature, a Dyson signature, written in the language of starlight and heat. When I whisper that idea to myself in the dark, galaxies as alien Dyson signatures, it feels both terrifying and comforting. Terrifying because it means that we might be missing something huge, or we might be staring straight at it and not even realize it. Comforting because it suggests we are not alone in trying to make sense of the cold, not alone in our hunger for energy and survival. I think of humans building cities, covering the night side of Earth with electric webs, airports glowing like constellations, ships tracing thin lines of light across dark oceans. From space, that's already a kind of signature. It's us saying without words, we are here. We use energy. We shape our world. Maybe galaxies, on some unimaginable scale, are doing the same. To even think about this, we need to hold a picture in our mind of a galaxy as it is, in its quiet natural state. So I close my eyes and imagine drifting far above the Milky Way, far enough that the whole thing fits beneath me like a slow, glowing whirlpool. It's a soft spiral with arms that curl out like a dancer's sleeves, filled with billions of tiny lights. Each of those tiny lights is a star, many with their own planets, their own families of rocks and ice and gas. In between the stars, there's dust, thin clouds of tiny grains. There's gas, too, invisible but real, spreading in wide, ghostly rivers. If you could smell it, maybe it would be like metal and cold stone and the faint, sharp scent of ozone after lightning. But out there in the vacuum, there's no air to carry smell, just silence. The only thing that moves easily is light, gliding through the dark like whispers through an empty hall. In a normal galaxy, the pattern of light has a kind of rhythm. The central region is bright and crowded, like a city center at night, full of old stars, yellow and red, glowing steadily. The spiral arms are more like suburbs or highways, dotted with young blue stars that burn hot and fast. There are knots where stars are being born in big clouds, and places where shockwaves and supernovas have carved little scars. The whole thing has structure, texture, differences. In some parts, light is sharp and clear. In others, it's faint and feathery. It's messy, like life. No straight lines, no perfect symmetry, just the kind of order that nature likes. Rough, organic, full of accidents. Now imagine a civilization that doesn't like accidents, or at least doesn't want to waste what they can use. They learn how to surround a star with machines that drink in its energy. Maybe they start with one star, then 10, then hundreds, and slowly they spread, like mold on bread or roots under soil, until their influence reaches across thousands of light years. If they're patient, if they don't destroy themselves, if they manage their fears and wars and egos, maybe they eventually reach a point where a large fraction of the stars in their galaxy are wrapped in these collectors. If they do that, the galaxy's light changes. The raw starlight is no longer just streaming out in all directions. A lot of it is being caught, turned into work, into technology, into something. But there's a catch that physics never lets you escape from. Energy used becomes heat. Not the gentle, cozy kind we feel from a blanket, but the inexorable kind that slowly spreads, the kind that raises temperature, the kind that makes the background hum just a little louder. When you use energy, you can't keep it perfectly. Some of it always slips away as heat. So a galaxy full of star-wrapping civilizations would glow differently. It might be dimmer in the blue, in the visible range that our eyes evolved for, and brighter in the infrared, in the long, soft waves that we feel as warmth on our skin. It would be like looking at a city not with your eyes, but with a thermal camera. You'd see hot spots where machines are working, where electricity flows, where engines burn. Except in this case, the city is a whole galaxy. Sometimes I like to imagine myself as one of those beings, not human, not even remotely human, maybe a creature of metal and code, or something more fluid, like living plasma swirling around magnetic fields. I imagine waking up on the edge of such a galaxy, not on a planet, but on some large, dark structure orbiting a star that I never see with my own eyes. The star is hidden behind collectors, behind panels that drink in its light, and the sky above me is not full of stars, but full of black shapes and faint red glows, the heat of machines whispering into space. The air, if there is air, might smell faintly like hot metal and recycled chemicals, like clean plastic and old dust. The floor under my feet might hum with the vibration of distant engines, a constant, low purr. And above it all, the galaxy I live in, my home, doesn't shine in the familiar way. To any distant watcher with human eyes, it might look its bright white arms replaced with a softer, redder blur. This idea, that we might see galaxies like this, isn't just a poetic dream. People have actually tried to look. Astronomers have taken data from sky surveys, giant catalogs of galaxies observed in many colors, from visible light to infrared, and asked, are there any galaxies that look like they're glowing too much in the infrared, or missing some of the light we'd expect from their stars? Because a galaxy full of Dyson structures might show up as something like that. Lots of waste heat, less normal starlight, a kind of cosmic too warm for its brightness signature. They've done searches, and so far, nothing stands out as a clear, obvious case of a whole galaxy being re-engineered. There are weird galaxies, dusty ones full of star formation, ones with active black holes blasting energy, but those can be explained by natural processes. Nature, it seems, is very good at making strange things without needing aliens. But the absence of clear signs doesn't mean the idea is dead. The universe is big, and our tools, as powerful as they are still quite young. It's like standing on a beach at night with a small flashlight, trying to see if any ships out there on the black water have their lights on. You sweep your beam across the waves, but the ocean is huge and your flashlight is small. Even if there are ships far away, you might not see them yet. Or maybe the ships don't use light the way you expect. Maybe they navigate by sound or by some other signal you're not tuned to. The silence we hear might not be empty. It might just be a mismatch between how we look and how they shine. When I think about galaxies as potential Dyson signatures, I feel this strange blend of hope and humility. Hope, because the thought that someone, somewhere, might have solved problems we are only just beginning to face. Energy, sustainability, survival. Feels like a kind of promise. Humility, because the scale is so far beyond us that we can barely grasp it. We struggle to keep our own small planet in balance, to share resources fairly among a few billion people. And here we are, casually imagining beings who can coordinate projects that span thousands of light years. It makes our daily worries feel tiny, but it also makes them precious. Because our little struggles are the first steps in a very long path. Every time we build a solar panel, every time we learn to do more with less, every time we choose to care about the long term instead of just the next few years, we are in a way practicing for that kind of future. There's a concept people sometimes use to talk about the growth of civilizations. They imagine a ladder. At the first step, a species uses the energy of its own planet, burning wood, coal, oil, capturing wind and sunlight. That's us, right now, somewhere in the middle of that messy stage. The next step is using all the energy of a star. And after that, using the energy of many stars, or a whole galaxy. We have cute names for these steps, but underneath the labels is a simple question. How far can life go if it has time, if it doesn't trip over its own fears? Galaxies as alien Dyson signatures are like a postcard from the far end of that ladder. They say, if you can survive long enough, if you can cooperate on scales we can barely imagine, this is the kind of mark you might leave on the universe. Not a radio signal, not a beacon, but a quiet reshaping of starlight itself. It's like carving your initials into the way energy moves through the cosmos. What fascinates me is that if such civilizations exist, their handiwork might be subtle. They might not want to waste energy blasting messages into the void. They might not care if anyone else notices them. They might be completely absorbed in their own projects, their own inner realities. To them, the galaxy might not be a stage to impress others, but simply a home to manage, to tend, to use carefully. Imagine an ancient forest where a hidden village has learned to live so well with the trees that from above you barely see them. Just a few faint trails, a few clearings, a gentle warmth where fires have burned. Maybe a Dyson galaxy is like that, only visible to those who know exactly what kind of warmth to look for. Sometimes, when I sit alone and think about this, I feel a quiet sadness. Because if there are galaxies out there wrapped in alien technology turned into vast, efficient energy farms, we might never meet the beings who built them. The distances are too huge, the time scales too long. By the time their light reaches us, crossing millions or billions of years of empty dark, whatever they were might have changed completely or disappeared. We'd be looking not at what they are, but at what they once were. A fossil of their ambition. It would be like finding an old, abandoned power plant in the middle of a desert and trying to imagine the people who built it, the lives they lived, the arguments they had, the songs they sang. We would see the structure, the consequence, but not the souls behind it. And yet there's also a kind of beauty in that distance. If the universe is full of such echoes, traces of civilizations written in the heat of galaxies, then maybe it's not a lonely place, even if we never shake hands with anyone. Maybe just knowing that others have walked this path, have looked at their own skies and wondered how far they could go, is enough to make our own journey feel less fragile. The night sky becomes a kind of library, full of stories we can't fully read, but can sense in the patterns of light. Of course, it's also possible that we are wrong about all of this. Maybe advanced life never reaches that scale. Maybe something always stops it. War, collapse, apathy, limits we don't yet understand. Maybe the reason we don't see Dyson galaxies is that no one ever gets that far. In that version of the story, galaxies are just galaxies, always and only natural. Their light is untouched, their stars burn and fade without ever being wrapped in alien machines. There's a different kind of silence in that idea, a different kind of ache. It would mean that what we are, this brief, fragile, curious thing on a small planet, is not a first step towards something vast, but more like a rare, flickering candle that almost always goes out before it can light the whole room. When that thought comes, I feel an almost physical tightness in my chest, like the air got a little heavier. Because it puts more weight on us, on this moment, on this small window of time where we can still choose our path. If the universe doesn't often get galaxies full of Dyson structures, then maybe we are standing at a crossroads that almost no one reaches. Maybe we are one of the rare chances the universe has to build something huge and lasting out of simple blind physics. A chance to turn random atoms into thoughts, into art, into long-term plans. And that makes every choice we make as a species feel more serious, more sacred. But the universe doesn't tell us which version is true. It just shines. It glows in microwave background light from its own birth, in the soft whisper of radio waves from distant quasars, in the hard, sharp flashes of gamma rays from dying stars. And buried in all that glow might be the faint fingerprints of someone else's work. Or it might all be just nature, doing what nature does. Our instruments listen. Our telescopes stare. We build better sensors, bigger mirrors, more sensitive detectors. We look for strange galaxies that are too smooth, too warm, too dim in the wrong colors. We write algorithms to sift through catalogs of millions of galaxies, like panning for gold in a river of data. Somewhere in that river, maybe there's a nugget, a hint, or maybe not. I think of astronomers, sitting alone at their desks at 3 a.m, the glow of a computer screen painting their faces blue and white. Outside, their towns are asleep, but the universe is not. On their screens, they scroll through images of galaxies, spirals, ellipticals, edge-on disks like cosmic knives, irregular blobs like spilled ink. Each one is a collection of hundreds of billions of stars, each star a possible home. They write code to measure colors, to compare brightness in different bands, to flag outliers. And every once in a while, one of those images looks a little strange, a bit too red here, a bit too dim there. For a moment, a small spark of hope flickers. Is this it? Is this a Dyson Galaxy? Then they dig deeper, cross-check other data, and usually the answer reveals itself. Dust, starbursts, an active black hole. Natural, not alien. The spark fades, but the curiosity doesn't. They keep looking. I love that image. A person in the dark, searching for signs of other minds in the light of galaxies. It feels very human. We are always doing that, in smaller ways. We look at each other's faces, trying to read thoughts in tiny expressions. We listen for emotion in the tone of a voice, even when the words are simple. We look at old ruins and try to guess who built them, what they cared about. Now we're just doing the same thing on a cosmic scale, trying to read intention in the way energy flows through a galaxy. And maybe, if someone is out there, they are doing the same. Maybe on a planet we will never see, under a sky with a different pattern of constellations, someone is staring at a small, dim spiral galaxy, catalog number something something, and wondering, could that be a young civilization just starting to use its energy? Could that be a future Dyson Galaxy in its childhood? Maybe they look at the faint radio noise from our sun, at the little sharp spikes from our radars and communications, and they tilt their heads, or whatever they have instead of heads, and think, they're loud, these newcomers. They burn fossil fuels and throw light into the sky. They're messy, but they're interesting. I wonder if they'll make it. When I breathe in these thoughts, I notice how even the air in my room feels different, heavier with possibility. The faint smell of dust, of fabric, of something cooking in a distant kitchen somewhere in the building, all of it feels like part of the same story. Matter rearranging itself, making warmth, making patterns. Our bodies are small, but they are made of atoms forged in stars, the same kind of stars that fill galaxies, the same kind that some alien builders might choose to wrap in machines. There's a direct line from the core of a star to the air in my lungs, to the thoughts in my brain, to the words you hear now. We are already part of a galactic energy flow. We just haven't learned how to guide it on larger scales. I sometimes imagine a future version of us, not in detail, just as a kind of presence. Maybe we survive our own adolescence as a species. Maybe we learn how to use fusion, the same process that powers stars, in safe, controlled ways. Maybe we spread out slowly, first in our own solar system, then beyond. It wouldn't be fast. Space is too big for fast. It would be more like lichen creeping over a rock, patient and quiet. Over millions of years, our descendants, or the descendants of our machines, or some hybrid, might start building large-scale structures in space. Swarms of collectors around stars, thin shells of light-absorbing material, fields of machines drifting like dark snow. From the surface of a small planet somewhere, someone might look up and see fewer stars in their sky, more dark shapes, more faint glows of waste heat. Their myths might talk about the old times, when the stars were naked and clear. If that ever happens, then one day far away, someone else might point a telescope at our galaxy, the Milky Way, and see something odd. They might notice that a lot of its stars are dim in visible light, but bright in the infrared. They might run the numbers and say, "This doesn't look like just dust. This looks like something is catching the light and re-emitting it as heat." They might whisper in whatever language they use, Dyson signatures. And they might feel the same mix of wonder and melancholy that we feel now, thinking of others. Because even if they realize what we've done, they might never talk to us. They might be seeing us as we were millions of years ago. Maybe by the time their telescopes notice, we've already changed into something else entirely, or we've gone silent. The universe is full of these time delays, like letters that arrive centuries too late to answer. Still, The idea that our galaxy could one day be someone else's mysterious data point makes me feel strangely tender toward it. When I see photos of the Milky Way arcing over deserts or mountains, that thick, glowing band dusted with stars, I think, this is our home's face, as seen from inside. One day, maybe it will have a different face from the outside, a face reshaped by minds that grew out of oceans and forests and city lights and quiet, lonely nights like this one. Until then, we stand in a kind of doorway. We can look out and ask, are there galaxies already wearing that mask? Are there places where life has learned to steer starlight on such a scale that a whole galaxy is a machine, and yet still, perhaps, a place of beauty and meaning and stories? We don't know, but the question itself changes how the night feels. It turns the sky from a static picture into a field of possibilities. There is one more layer to this that I often taste in the back of my mind, like the aftertaste of strong tea: entropy. The slow drift toward disorder, the way heat spreads, the way energy becomes less useful over time. A Dyson galaxy, if it exists, is not just a sign of power. It's also a sign of surrender to this law. Those civilizations would be catching starlight, using it, and in doing so, speeding up the local increase of entropy, turning bright, focused radiation into diffuse warmth. They'd be accelerating the universe's long slide toward cold uniformity, but doing it in a way that creates complexity and meaning along the way. It's ironic and beautiful. To build something vast and ordered, you have to participate in the grand disordering. We do that too, in our tiny way. Every time we light a lamp, run a computer, make a cup of coffee, we move energy from one form to another, from concentrated to spread out. We make heat. We contribute to the background murmur. But in the middle of that, we write books, compose music, fall in love, argue, dream. We take a universe that could have been just gas and dark matter slowly cooling, and we add laughter and pain and curiosity. Maybe that's what all advanced civilizations do at any scale. They turn the simple flow of energy into something with texture and narrative. So when I think of galaxies as alien Dyson signatures, I don't just see cold machines wrapping stars. I see stories written in the faint, red glow of waste heat. I see the ghost of long-vanished fears, the memory of first discoveries, the echo of debates in council rooms under alien skies. I see children, or whatever their children are, growing up in a world where the night is lit not by stars, but by the gentle, constant warmth of energy collectors humming silently. I see philosophers, or their equivalent, standing somewhere near the edge of a Dyson-reshaped galaxy, looking out at other galaxies still untouched, still wild, and wondering whether they did the right thing, whether there were other paths. And I see us here, now, in a small dim room on a small bright planet, listening to the hum of our own machines, the taste of the air, the feel of the chair under our body, the glow of a screen on our face. All of it is part of this vast, slow conversation between matter and energy and awareness. We don't know yet whether our galaxy will ever carry a Dyson signature, or whether we'll ever find another that does. But the fact that we can ask the question at all is already a kind of signature. It says here, in this small corner of space, the universe has become curious about itself. I think about that as I sit in the dark, imagining ceilings dissolving, walls fading, my room opening into a universe of galaxies, each one a swirl of possible histories. Some are just stars and gas, quiet and indifferent. Some, maybe, are laced with structures we can't yet see, full of minds we'll never meet. All of them are drifting apart as space expands, like lanterns on a black river, slowly gliding away from one another. We are on one of those lanterns, looking out. If someday, far in the future, the universe grows old and cold, and the last civilizations huddle around the faint embers of dying stars, maybe they will look back at the age of galaxies and think of it as a golden time, when there was still so much light to shape, so much energy to borrow. Maybe they will remember or rediscover that once in the spiral arms of a modest galaxy, A small species wondered if entire galaxies could be alien signatures, and in that wondering felt both very small and very connected. For now, we are just beginning. We taste a little of the sun's power on our rooftops. We send small machines to the edge of our solar system. We build telescopes that can catch the faint scent of heat from distant worlds and distant stars. We sit in quiet rooms at night and let our minds wander far beyond the walls. And as we do, the galaxies look back at us with their soft, ancient light, saying nothing, explaining nothing, just shining. They might be natural. They might be altered. They might be homes. They might be empty. We don't know. But we are here, breathing, thinking, asking. And maybe that is the deepest signature of all. Not machines around stars, not the warmth of Dyson structures, but the simple, fragile act of wondering in the dark, on a small planet, in a young universe, about what might be written in the light of distant galaxies, and what, in the end, we ourselves will write there.